Okay, good evening, everyone. Of course, thanks for joining the BroDiallo broadcast. Kill the background noise because y'all don't want to be. What's up, James? Moderator extraordinaire. I'm glad y'all could join me this evening. Of course, every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central Time, we got the BroDiallo broadcast live and direct. I really appreciate. Shout out to my Patreon. Shout out to all my contributors. Shout out to all my hate watchers, because we got hate watchers out there who be doing some hateful, spiteful shit. But I ain't gonna put y'all on blast because y'all like to be anonymous. And who am I to out someone who chooses to remain anonymous? But I know the kind of shit you're doing. I know the kind of shit y'all be pulling. Whichever one of you hate watchers, one of you haters, snitches, mark ass buster tricks that told my wife about when I said Puff Daddy is not locked up for being freaky, because being freaky was illegal. Me and Dr. Mingo would also be locked up. And one of y'all hate watchers, because I know none of my allies, I know none of my co-conspirators, I know none of my fellow Pan-Africanist revolutionaries wouldn't go and tell. But they don't want us to have fun here. So I tell y'all what, we're going to be mad professional. We're not going to speak out of turn. We're not going to say nothing that we don't need to say unless we have to say it. Because, people be run, tell that. So them's the new rules. Professionalism on the BroDiallo broadcast. We're going to keep it straight as we talk about the systems and institutions of global white hegemony and capitalism. We just gonna be straight. I ain't gonna say nothing I ain't need or supposed to say. We're gonna get on topic. No, she didn't. She didn't see the show. She was like, the BroDiallo show is my everyday life. So why I gotta watch the show? That's what she tells me. And then I don't go to her lectures, so it's even. But yeah, some snitches in the house. We got some weak links on the chain. We got some traitors in our camp. So whoever you is, when I find out, I tell you, like the last person who threatened me, when I found out, you're gonna have to see me. Anyway, let's move forward. There's a disturbing trend. Anyway, I'm gonna get right into it. No dilly-dallying. It's mad shit to talk about, but I'm gonna jump on the topic and move forward with the discussion with both feet, because I do want to open up with Q&A and ask questions, because I know like the last 2 or 3 broadcasts of the BroDiallo show, I didn't have no time for Q&A or open things up, and I don't want to do that. So let's do it, and then we can come back with the Q&A. So anyway, one thing that's disturbing me, aside from what I want to talk about, but it's in the same vein, so we on topic. People be complaining but that I don't be on topic too, is that what's going on with this? Let me adjust my camera. I'm an extremely vain man, and if I don't have the right lighting and angle, that ain't good either. This little $30 camera, I expect more. Now I went online looking for a new camera, and they talking about $300. So y'all gonna have to get this level of resolution and frame rate, whatever this camera do, is what we got for a minute. So, but I did go look for another camera, but I'm like, yeah, this camera is, when I saw how much these web broadcast cameras was, I decided, hey, how about no? But anyway, this camera's good enough. What was I saying? Oh, let me tell you something that's bothering me. Project Pat. If you don't know how Project Pat is, you're too young to be watching this show. Go wake up your mama and your daddy and tell them to come watch the show. But if you don't know who Project Pat is, then you too young to be watching the show. I ain't gonna say who he is, but he became a minister, right? And then months ago, if you know who Black China, former stripper, former reality TV star, former influencer. I don't blame you for not knowing who Black China is, especially you ladies. She went into God, into holiness, and that bothers me. And if you know anything, 3-6 Mafia, 666 Mafia, all them days. But anyway, like I said, I'm seeing a lot of, I'm not even going to say I'm not even gonna say bad people, but a lot of formerly, oh, I got a word. I'm gonna use their language. A lot of worldly public figures. Even in y'all, a lot of y'all forgetting. We overlooking this now, but even when Puff Daddy P Diddy changed his name to Love, he also started kind of leaning towards this Judeo-Christian because it's so fucking weird. Whenever bad, like black folks, whenever you got a run-of-the-mill black person who's known for something worldly or something less than wholesome, and they decide I want to get away from this unwholesomeness, they always go into Jesus. And then when you get a conscious black person, when they wake up conscious, they become Islam. I think the only person that didn't go that route, which was an unpleasant or pleasant surprise, was when Snoop Dogg wanted to try to get away, because Snoop Dogg did everything from genocidal Pied Piper, genocide propagandist, anti-black, death, murder, death, kill, pimp, gangster bullshit that he was on. He went to the Million Man farce and was looking weird as hell. Let me see. If anybody remember one of the marches, the Million Family March, Millions More movement, he was sitting there looking perturbed. I mean, like, if a perturbed, the expression on that man's face, I don't know what was wrong with him. But which one was it? It was one of the Million Man marches. Y'all did like the 20th anniversary of the Million Man March. And dude was sitting there with his lips pierced. It's the weirdest shit. I'll share it. But look at his, why are his lips pierced? He got on a crooked ass bow tie. But this was the 20th anniversary of the Million Man farce. But I used to use this picture in memes. I've memed because he's looking mad perturbed while the minister's up there spewing his cultish rhetoric. But anyway, this is a time where he was trying to go through a path of enlightenment, and Snoop Dogg went to Jamaica on kind of like a pilgrimage, even though his roots go from West Africa to Mississippi. I don't know why he would make a Hajj to. So, but anyway, he became Snoop Lion because Rastas hate dogs. If you have a friend who's a Rasta and you have a pet dog, don't even invite him to your house. Rasta man hate dogs for some reason. But anyway, long story short, so he was a pimp that normally, like Don Magic Juan, one of his henchmen, became a minister or ordained legit minister. And so all my life, I've been seeing like these public figures who didn't have wholesome, clean images. When they want to turn their shit around, they get into God. Remember Mason Betha, who was with, when he made his exit from Bad, became Minister Mace. So, and now the newest one they got was Project Pat. And if you know anything about serve and tear the club up, it hurts my heart. And then I was watching Black China. And Black China was going through this reversal of her surgical enhancements. So she had the filler and cheek implants removed. She had breast reduction. She had her breast implants removed and smaller breast implants inserted. She had some of the injections or whatever, the hip and behind enhancement. She, had more procedures, because my thing is, if I have procedures and I'm like, procedures is bad, I'm gonna just stop procedures. But she wanted to had some mitigating or reverse procedures, and then she started becoming this whole wholesome person. And it hurts me because the overall society, i.e. white folks, are going away from church. Less church attendance, less people having faith in God. If you look at Western Europe, the motherfuckers who imposed Christianity on the Western world, the Greco-Roman church coming out of the papacy, Christendom, Protestant Reformation, and then Protestant and Eastern Orthodox and Catholicism, the motherfuckers who put this on all of us. The ones who put all this shit on all of us are like, never mind. I'm done with it. While when you look at any type of Christian cult, Christian sect, the biggest, fastest, most growing population and the most loyal populations are found in Africa. I mean, the Catholic Church will be over. The only place the Catholic Church is growing in influence is Africa. Outside of Africa, Latin America. And what's the largest population of Africans outside of the African continent? Latin South America. I remember Dick Gregory would always brag about the research and the statistics that show that Black people are more spiritual and religious in their day-to-day life than Europeans or white folks. And one quote I always say, we out-pope the Pope, we out-Muhammad. We go harder in the paint for these alien religions than our own people do. And we are the true believers, that which was an insult. It was an insult when he said Black folks are the true believers. But Amos Wilson also said this notion of we are a spiritual people. And you even find secular, rational, conscious people that talk about Black people being somehow inherently spiritual or even having a higher level of natural or background spirituality, spiritual consciousness than other people. And I hate that about us. I know. Clutch your pearls, put your fingertips to your chest, and to the other hand, put the back of your hand across your forehead and faint. I would rather Black folks be known we are a vengeful people or we are a rational people. You know, we are a cunning people. The last thing I want to be known as a collective is a spiritual people. And so anyway, it bothers me that the height of moral accomplishment is a Black person's like, well, I've been out here pushing pimp culture. I had gold all on my teeth, gold all on my neck. I'm pushing hot cars, hot whips with all these features and shit. And I've been pushing materialism. I've been pushing loose sexuality, just fornication and worldliness. And I want to be a better man. And when a Black man decides to be a better man, he becomes a full-fledged, not just a member of a male chauvinist murder cult, but one of the proponents or one of the Pied Pipers, one of the promoters. I'm about to start preaching. How can you conclude, I want to be a better man, so I'll become a Christian? Have you read the Bible? The Holy Bible? Have you read the Bible? And you sisters falling for that shit. Like I say all the time, everybody love Christianity until some Christian shit happens. And I have Christian women violating the basic tenets of Christianity in order to defend Christianity from somebody who rejects Christianity. I ain't even going to explain that one, but I love saying that when sisters come and tell me and get mad at me for talking bad about their Lord and Savior. And then I have to remind them, how dare you? Do you not see that I am a men's and women cannot come to men and speak? You better find a male, a male to speak on your behalf because you're unworthy to talk. But I digress. So it just disturbs me. What disturbs me even more than Project Pat becoming a minister is all of the praise and adulation that came from him publicly announcing, I'm going to go from being a gangster, and Black gangsters have been around maybe 75 years or so. It's relatively new, depending on how you define gangs and the popular street gangs. But Black gang formation is a post-Jim Crow thing. Gangs that have been responsible for the death of millions, for the incarceration of millions, for trafficking drugs, for causing the premature death and causing the abuse and trafficking of millions of women. And then you say, I want to be a better person. I don't want to live this gangster life or promote this gangster life. But then I'm going to go and join a formation that has caused the deaths of hundreds of millions, that have oppressed. I don't want to be a part of something that have oppressed my people for about a century. And I'm going to be a part of something that has oppressed my people for 2 millennia. I don't want to be a part of something that robs my community of millions of dollars of wealth. I want to be a part of something that has stole trillions of dollars of wealth from me. I say all the time, religion and religions have done more harm to us than gangs. Now, one of those reasons is that religion has been around longer than gangs. Black religion, black slave religion has been around longer than black gangs. So that is one thing. It's not, gangs are not less harmful to us. Gangs are not less harmful to us because for lack of trying. They've tried their best, but they ain't had the time or the reach. Less than depending on where you are. Now, you can get some areas where upwards of 5% of the population has some gang ties or gang affiliations. If you go into certain neighborhoods and certain communities, you can get really like astronomical levels of gang participation. But overall, people's affiliation and connection and association or active participation in gangs don't make up 1% of the total black population. Not even 1%. Like I said, on average, some areas it's much lower, approaching zero. Some areas, when you get into the high gang area, it's up to 5%. But even that's bullshit, because when a police department designates a place to be a drug trafficking zone or a gang zone, they get federal funds for more policing and oversight, blah, blah, blah. So what's happening when I was a kid, any action, if you had any interaction with the police and you were in this designated crime or gang or drug area, you automatically went on the gang roster. So you could literally be jaywalking or littering in the poor communities. And if the police walk up to you and get your name, they didn't have to arrest you. They didn't have to charge or try or incarcerate you. But if you had any level of interaction back and forth where the cop IDs who you are, do you have ID? What's your name? And cops used to always ask us for this social security number. When I was a child, if you didn't walk in with an ID or you didn't have your social security number memorized, interaction with the police, no matter for whatever reason, meant you were going to jail. They assumed that if you did not, or if you failed to identify yourself, then you obviously either have a warrant or engaged in criminal activity. I mean, it was no different than, let me see your paper, let me see your ID. That's how they used to operate in apartheid South Africa, where Elon Musk grew up. But anyway, they inflate the gang numbers by putting just black people who live in poor communities, who jaywalk, who maybe got into an argument with their significant other and the police had to come and intervene and break up the fight. And they were like, okay, we've encountered more gang members. And then if you actually do a crime. So I remember one time, shout out to Dion, rest in peace, and Rip. We were out breakdancing, and this is in the late 80s. We had cardboard out on the sidewalk. And we had a radio, and so we were playing loud music and breakdancing on the sidewalk in the projects. And the police, somebody must have called, like, these young kids are blocking the sidewalks. Well, we were obstructing an egress. And the cops came, and the cop pulled up and was like, I've got 8 juveniles here. And one of the kids that was with us was like, oh shit, I'm a juvenile, because he thought the word juvenile meant you were incarcerated, because juvie or juvenile was synonymous. But anyway, he took down all our names, and they were putting us on the thing because we were blocking a sidewalk. And then let's say I stole a candy bar, or I got into a fist fight at school and they called the police. Then I'm already on that thing, having been found operating or functioning or engaged in some type of civil disruption in a gang area. Anyway, all that to say is, the gang participation and gang numbers are highly inflated in black communities. They're inflated. Now, I don't know why I have to go to say that, but gang numbers are extremely low. The damage they do a lot. They punch above their weight. Gangs do a lot more damage in respect to their numbers, but the numbers are small. So you got a formation, a negative anti-black formation that engages with 1 to 5% of the population. Then you have this thing where over 95% of the population, over 95% of the population is a part of this other hostile entity, this alien force, and it pretty much directs and controls your life like the gangs, dictates how you dress like the gangs, extracts money from you. You got to pay up, pay your tithe or bang in. You got to put in that work. Gangs are also responsible for an enormous amount of violence. Now, it's more what we have come to call domestic violence. But because of the rhetoric of the Bible, the beating of spouses and children, you'll find that the largest number of domestic abusers and child abuse cases, the offenders often have religious, theological rationale, justification, or motivation to justify or rationalize their violence. So even though it's not something that gets the headline like drive-by, some communities, it goes as far as acid attacks. But there is an enormous amount of abuse and violence that is justified by Christianity and Islam. And I throw Judaism also does that, but because their numbers are relatively minuscule, they in there too. They're male chauvinist murder cult. So it bothered me that a person says, I've been doing bad in my life, I've been doing bad in my community, and I want to do good. I've been taken from my people and I want to give something back. I've been down low and I want to be raised up high. I've been going the wrong way and I want to turn my life around. And you choose Christianity. You choose Christianity to fix yourself. And what's worse, like I said, what's even worse than an individual black man deciding I'm doing bad and I want to do good, so I'm going to go join a male chauvinist murder cult, is the community. Everybody's been, Project Pat. They've been we got to lift him up on the shoulders. We must protect our man. We must lay our hands on this brother. Right on. And we counting this as a win. We're counting this as a win, which shows me menticide abounds. So it bothers me that if you are a black person who's up to no good, you're up to no good, you're in these streets, and you think joining a Christian church or adopting the Christian faith or spreading the word of Christ to the other black people, you go from frying pan to fire. And I saw Black China. I see Project Pat. And y'all, like I said, many of us missed it because many people just dismissed it offhand. But even then, he was about to do that. And I thought Snoop was about to go that route. You know, he done made all the money he can make off of pornography and gangster rap and hyper materialism, and he was going to become a minister, maybe even convert to Islam. But then he went and converted to Rastafarianism. And didn't he do a reggae album? I know he did like some reggae type songs. Yeah, Reincarnated. No, that was the documentary. It didn't even look right. Man, that shit didn't even look like it was supposed to. Woo. But yeah, I shout out to the black community. Cause y'all weird. Y'all didn't fall for the Snoop thing. But y'all fell hard. Y'all fell hard for, like, if Snoop had converted, I think if Snoop had converted to what do you call it? If Snoop had converted to Christianity, I think the community would have embraced it more. Yeah, he had it was an album and a documentary. And that white boy Diplo, and he recorded in Jamaica. Look at Snoop line. He kept the locks, but he dropped everybody else. I bet you he's back to eating swine. But y'all didn't buy that because black folks think because Rastafarianism believe that the Lion of Judah, the elect of God, the second coming of Christ was King Haile Selassie. And y'all, it's like, because they actually have a black man who's God. So that's why black folks are scared of Rastafarianism. But I mean, if I had to be biblical, if I had to be religious, I'd probably be a Rasta too, because they got the best food and the best music. And I don't even have to shave my head or trim my beard anymore. I'd be good. I could just let that shit go too. But anyway, that's all I'll say. Stop fucking praising bad people who become Christians, because they're still bad people. And I have to tell you this, even religious and spiritual people, rituals do not make you righteous. Say it with me. Rituals do not make you righteous. Religion consists of rituals. I will wrap my head and cover my head. I will pray 5 times a day facing the east. I will tithe 10% of my income. I will abstain from eating red meat. All these little rituals that you do to show your submission and reverence to God. But that does not make you a good person. Praying, reading the Bible, even I give to charity. None of that shit makes you a good person. And that's what, it's hard to be a good person, because to be a truly good person is society and social relationships are extremely dynamic and constantly changing. So you can't just settle on a list of things. I do this and I don't do that, therefore I'm good. Because to be a good person, you might have to make adjustments. Like I could say I'm a peaceful man. I don't do no violence. I'm a good man. But the time will come where, I got to strap up. I got to do violence in order to be good. I won't raise my voice or show anger because I'm good. It's times you got to raise your voice and rip shit up. I don't steal. I'm a good man. Thou shalt not steal. And then you got a billionaire who raped your community of resources, and you kick in his door and take back some of your shit, or you run up in the grocery store to feed the hungry. You go and loot in a riot. So goodness is dynamic. And what makes humans good is not the rituals we do. What makes humans moral, good, righteous is our cognition, our ability to think critically, our ability to contemplate, to reflect, our capacity for empathy. These things make us good. These are not static things that you can write fixed rules about. But it's real easy, like, goddamn, every day I wake up and say, I want to be a good man. And every day I have to reflect on my actions of my past and what I'm doing now and what I intend to do further. As my children, to be a good father. It's different than being a good father to a toddler, an adolescent, a teenage adolescent who's coming into his own manhood. Oh, I'm your father, therefore you must obey me. You do not talk back to me. That's ritual. Now you're becoming a man your damn self. So my older teenage sons, I allow them to debate. I don't even allow them to. I engage with them when they articulate their positions. They want to argue. It's like, hey, it's time for me to drive a car. I should be able to go out this late. I can say, okay, so what's the rationale? My word is not law. The same thing with my spouse. I'm a man, therefore I am the lead. So religion and spirituality makes you righteous because you have rituals. Even the spiritual, I got this shrine, I got this patchouli oil and this gong. And no, rituals do not make you righteous. Sticking to the same shit, in fact, you're definitely going to be a bad person, because what was good in the year 18 BC is not relevant to what's good now. Render unto Caesar. Slave, submit to thy master. And that's what religion does. Religion relieves you of the burden of actually being good. You get all the good points, you get all the good consideration, you get all the good clout and status without being a good person, because you simply take the round religious peg and put it in the round religious hole, and therefore, Allah, I am not sinning. So I do not engage in sin, even if the sin is not, don't wear mixed fabric. It's some weird shit. And that's why religious people are so fucking bad, is because they don't have to think about being good. They don't have to contemplate. They don't understand that goodness, morality, ethics, just righteousness evolves. It is related to your relationship to your society and relationship to everyone around you. And there is nothing fixed. There is no fixed, static set of rules that can make you a good person. What makes you a good person is, number one, the conscious desire, the conscious drive to be a good person. And number two, in being willing to engage in the intellectual, critical thinking to guide your behavior. But if you default to say, hey, here's a list of rules some random motherfucker wrote and lied about where he got it from, say he got it from a mountain, say he got it from a divine source, but he pulled it out his ass, and I'm just going to follow that because that absolves me from having to fucking think. I don't even have to think about what to wear. I don't even have to think about what to wear. And, oh, God tells me what to wear. That's why you got people on subways, on the concrete jungle of the subway, dressed like Bedouins. You got people flying in jets across the Atlantic Ocean dressed like medieval peasants. You got motherfuckers who have access to blood transfusions and x-rays and MRI machines, and they're dying of treatable illnesses because they stuck in these rituals and letting their children die of treatable diseases because their children and themselves dying prematurely because they trying to stick to these old dead ass rituals instead of using their critical brain. So it's better to stick to a ritual that will kill your child than break with ritual and get the help that your child needs. That's why you got people more mad at two men having intercourse than they are at destruction and the extinction of the fucking black rhino. And we're going to get into that. Oh, that's a good segue. So anyway, Project Pat. Abandon the streets, abandon religion, and come on over to revolutionary Pan-Africanism, revolutionary ideology, Pan-African revolutionary mass organizations. That's how you become. That's how you make amends for all the harm you did with your anti-African propaganda. Because you're going from street level propaganda to international global scale propaganda, and it's all bad. But I digress. Now let's move on because this is the topic. Because today's show is biblical, political apocalypse. And I've talked about this before. I've been talking about this all my life. Been talking all my life. So anyway, so let's go to the notes about. So Hurricane Helene just came and ravaged the biblical South. All right. So we're going to talk about why Christianity and capitalism are fueling climate change and leading to a man-made apocalypse. So an apocalyptic religion is any religion. Not all religions are apocalyptic. But the major apocalyptic religions, which are basically religions that believe that there is some grand end, there is a set end date. And then you have dispensational religions that believe that not only is there an end times where all things will cease to exist of the material world, but there are signs that will happen. There were major events in human history. There are major events in history that will, or in a society or culture that will point you to the reckoning, the coming of the end times. And all of these religions see the cease of existence of the material world or the complete extermination of all humanity as a good thing. Now, these apocalyptic religions, now I'm just going to talk about Christianity because basically Islam, what I'm saying, 99% of what I'm saying about Christianity applies to Islam because Islam, as we quote Dr. John Henry Clarke, is the most unoriginal world religion. It's the most unoriginal world religion. And I know Muslims like to, when they're trying to break bread and reach common ground with Christians, pretty much say that Jesus is the most quoted prophet of the Quran, and that that's the only difference. They don't accept the divinity of Christ, but other than that, they accept the teachings of Christ, which is true. Which is, they say something to make common ground, but it's really it's a sucker MC. They bit. They didn't even really expand on it too much, but that's what it is. So we have these apocalyptic religions that people be mad casual about, because it's weird as fuck to me. Because if I believe that I'm going to live 85 years, if I'm lucky, on earth, but I'm going to have an eternal afterlife, I wouldn't put much stake in this material flesh. I wouldn't put much stake in the flesh. I mean, like, that's why I couldn't fuck with that shit, because I'm a real dude. So you tell me, like, yo, these are the teachings, I'm going to be like St. Andrew, St. Anthony. I'm going to go live in a cave. I'm going to go into a monastery. I wouldn't even have to shave my head, which is cool, but I'm going to be in a monastery in a cloak, chanting. Let me tell you something. I'd give up all my worldly possessions. I walk up in the living room right now and be like, you Jezebel woman, get thee from hence. I'm gone. Tell these kids, tell everybody I said bye. I'm out to live the most ascetic life. I'd be a fucking monk. Because I'm like, why am I wasting time here? Why am I even having kids? This shit is doomed. Fuck the flesh. But I tell you, I worked in a level 1 trauma center, as I like to remind y'all too often. And I ain't never seen one Christian to be like, if y'all don't put that saline bag down, if y'all don't put that needle, get that x-ray machine up from off of me, don't you come with no syringes. Get that oxygen cannula out of my nose. I don't need none of this shit. I'm going to the on high. I see Christians come in and like, I want it all. Every needle, put it in here, put the oxygen shit up here. Give me turn left, taking a deep breath, take this x-ray, get me the surgery. I'm trying to live. They be trying to live so hard. Like, that's peculiar to me. That's peculiar to me. If you say, BroDiallo, on the other side of that door is bags and bags and bags of vegan peanut butter cups, the vegan peanut butter pieces, and I just had, I had to go all the way, what was it, in Uruguay. First time in Uruguay, I had my first taste of the vegan Kit Kats. Man, them shits is hot fire. I ain't promoting them, don't buy them, don't eat them. Save them for me. But no, I don't support that corporation, but I had to try it. Them shits was hot fire. That's the first Kit Kat I had in over 30 years, man. I was choking back tears. But anyway, if you said just on the other side of that door, brother, it's all the vegan candy, chocolate, peanut butter, just on the other side of that door. And I'm like, keep that door locked. Don't you dare open that door. I'll have time. When I get to the door, I'm going to that door as quickly as possible. That's just how I do. That's just how I do. So it's mad peculiar. But getting back to apocalyptic religions, right? Because I want to get through this, because I want to holler at y'all. I see questions, people asking questions, and people got curiosities that I'd like to help them satisfy. But anyway, so you got these apocalyptic religions that say that the world will come to a fantastic end and that humans are worthy of it. And it is not something that humanity can avoid. It is set in stone, but humans can determine on what side of the apocalypse. Will they be part of those who are rescued, or those who will go on to paradise, or will they be part of the damned? Now, some Christian sects say that there will be humanity left on the earth after the great awakening. The earth will be a paradise. The earth will be a holy place. And, 144,000 of the elect of God, Jehovah's Witness and other Christian sects, the Mormons, which is another Christian cult, they say you go get your own planet and you'll have. So some apocalypses, they tweak it. All of it's made up. So nobody's wrong. I'm sorry, I didn't know that banner was going across the bottom nonstop. I didn't notice. None of it's wrong. But you'll see Christians get upset, and every now and then they'll talk about it's the end times, it's the last days, this is the sign of the times. A mark of the beast. That's what I was hearing all the time. Everything was the mark of the fucking beast. And the Antichrist. Everybody's the fucking Antichrist. Ronald Reagan was the Antichrist because what was Ronald Reagan's middle name? Wilson. So Ronald Wilson Reagan. Ronald Reagan's name, each of his first name has 6 letters, his middle name has 6 letters, and his last name has 6 letters. Ronald Wilson Reagan. And so everybody was like, Ronald Reagan's the Antichrist. And this was just around the time the religious, ultra-conservative evangelicals were becoming political. But there was a time, man, what a time to be alive, where the religious conservatives considered it to be inappropriate or unnecessary to be in politics because the world is doomed. So it doesn't matter who's president, it doesn't matter what policies they implement. So Jerry Falwell and other characters like him was like, yo, let's get into politics because there's money over there. So anyway, and I remember in 1999, people were talking about those nines were going to flip. And y'all even remember, because if you believe in such nonsense, you also start to believe, remember the Mayan calendar? I actually got to see a real Mayan calendar when I was in South America. And they were interpreting the Mayan calendar. And there were people like, yeah, you know, the Mayan calendar stops at 2021 or 2022 or something like that. I remember there were a bunch of Black Hebrew cultists who believed that Obama's election was a herald, that a black man or ascending to the throne of Babylon was a herald of the apocalypse. And so you had individuals or conditions and circumstances that bring about the apocalypse. But most Christian people, most Muslim people believe that there will be a reckoning. The Nation of Islam is an apocalyptic cult. End times, that God will come by or descend from heaven to right all the wrongs, to reward the righteous and punish the wicked. And that type of thinking, that type of rationalization is directly related to the rise and rationalization for capitalism and climate change. Capitalism and climate change. Christianity and capitalism are the two I use this word too much. I need to expand my vocabulary. But the two incestuous lovers who give birth to climate change. Not only does it cause climate change, it handicaps our ability. So a lot of people understand that capitalism, and I don't even know if I need to go into it, about how capitalism drives climate change and how capitalism erects barriers to addressing climate change. But what a lot of people don't understand is also how Christian rationalization and Christian reasoning, Christian faith, Christian values, and like I said, you can throw any other world religion into this. You can even talk about Hindu and Buddhism, which have their own problems, or you could even talk about Islam. But I'm just going to go from Christianity because I'm kind of taking this back to the Bible Belt. So you'll notice most people that have political views and political positions that climate change is a hoax or it shouldn't be prioritized, people that have the political views that you shouldn't fund infrastructure, that taxing people to fund infrastructure is a waste of money, people who believe that organizations like FEMA or the EPA or demonic entities that in the FEMA coffins, who remembers all the FEMA coffins, and when Lord Jamar said 30 years ago it's going to be some shit when they unleash FEMA in the FEMA camps. The people who hold all these views in relationship to climate change and the disaster preparedness, the people who live in the state, who elect congressmen and senators, who vote against funding FEMA, who vote against regulations to mitigate carbon emissions, who vote against expanding drilling and extracting, who vote against incentivizing green energy, renewable energy, all those people who have those politics are also the people who tend to have or overrepresented in the evangelical Christian dispensational movement. And you'll notice that in their rationale, if a hurricane strikes Cuba, because the Cubans are godless communists. If a hurricane strikes Haiti, it's because the Haitians made a deal with the devil to get out of the yoke of slavery. So these demonic voodoo people got an earthquake. But if the same catastrophe strike Florida, where woke goes to die, and I guess now we can say, and I'm going to say this shit. I thought about whether or not I was going to say it because I think I'm clever, but I'm not as clever as I think. But I think Ron DeSantis should change after Hurricane Helene. Instead of saying Florida is where woke goes to die, maybe this stupid motherfucker can now say Florida is where woke goes to drown. But now, whenever catastrophes, whether it is wildfires, earthquakes, hurricanes, flooding, when it strikes the Bible Belt, when it strikes below the Mason-Dixon line, when it strikes red Republican states, they say, well, it can't be because we're godless. It can't be because we're communist. It can't be because we're demonic. It can't be because of the spirit of the homosexual transgender. So they say literally, well, it is laser, special laser. It is HARP. It is special programs, weather control programs that are happening. They won't acknowledge climate change. So they say, well, the government has in northern Alaska, in the upper reaches of Alaska, where Sarah Palin was looking at Vladimir Putin with binoculars as governor of Alaska. In the hinter regions, there's the HARP program. And the HARP, and white folks was really bugging out about this. And so there's this HARP program that they believe is a weather control program. And now this is the official HARP website. And the conservatives, the Christians believe that this HARP program is a weather control program. Let me remove the BroDiallo logo. The Christians, conservatives, right-wingers believe that the HARP program ran through the University of Alaska is a weather control and weather modification program that can create hurricanes, that can create earthquakes, that can create torrential flooding. And so the same rationale that when they say, well, the same where they say, well, in the communist countries, in the African countries that don't submit to the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, or don't submit to the will of Allah, that still pray to our ancestors, Orisha, or, the blue states, the liberal blue states that let transgender women and transgender men use the bathroom of their gender identity and let drag queens read books to kids. And I'm still waiting for the drag queen molestation story. Because I'd rather a drag queen read to my kid than a Catholic priest or a Baptist minister. Because I can't go a full week without somebody of the cloak or a man of the word of God is not caught doing some shit to a kid. But I digress. They say, well, in these godless places, when there is weather catastrophe, because climate change isn't real, and God's will rules over all. So climate change isn't real, and God's will, thine will be done. So when there is a climate catastrophe, when there is a drought, God is punishing you. But if it happens in a place where godly people dwell, where the people of the word, people anointed, the blessed and highly favored dwell, then this is obviously the work of the government, or the work of communists, or the work of the woke, some not supernatural punishment, but some technological conspiracy. And even now they're saying that. And even they talk about, even though they vote for senators and congressmen to go to Washington, D.C. to do away with any government. I don't want no government. I don't want the government. Because the government and the government Gestapo coming to my county telling me I can't have a SUV. They don't want, say, I want to have a gas gun. I want to emit as much carbon. I want to burn, slash, and burn. I want to hunt all the freaking animals in my county, and I want to cut down every tree in my county, and I want to get a Land Rover or a land and dig up and create dragways. And they don't want the government to tell me what I can drive and tell me I need an electric car, and a government to put up a windmill, to call a cancer-causing windmill, as Trump says windmills cause cancer, a cancer-causing windmill. So these motherfuckers, and that's where this hurricane was, way as far as North Carolina and southern Illinois. Just this last hurricane just ravaged the red states, the Bible states. And these are the same people that say God's will be done and on earth as it is in heaven. And they also believe that there is a great awakening. And you know, the people who wrote the Bible didn't know shit. The Bible is an extremely unintelligent book. There's no way you can live in modern society and be impressed with the wisdom taught in the Bible, the morality in the Bible. A 5-year-old is more moral than God. A 5-year-old child has a better concept of fairness, reward and punishment incentives, has a greater value of human life. A child who can't even enter into a legal contract has a more developed and complex sense of right and wrong and morality than the biblical teachings and the God. And people pick up the Bible and read, "Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife," and be like, wow, only a divine being could know that it's not good to kill people or try to push up on the next man's woman. Wow, we wouldn't have known. We would have never guessed. I'd just be out hacking and slashing people if it wasn't for the divine creator of all things. And notice all the biblical fire, floods, earthquakes. It's all shit that was around back then. They couldn't predict the kind of shit that would come up now. Remember, God didn't even say meteor. Like, they knew they would see meteors, but they didn't know really the catastrophic damage that a meteor could do. So they was like, oh, rain, fire, locust. Yeah, locust. Because God didn't know no more. God didn't have any. God didn't know plagues. But he didn't mention microscopic, didn't even mention what a virus, bacteria, non-specific. But I digress. So these people who have a belief system that says God will flood us, God will rain down lightning storms and hailstorms and drought, God will bring about calamities. What? My camera just went out. Hold on. Can y'all still hear me? I shouldn't have. Okay. I'm just telling y'all. If that ain't evidence of that I'm blaspheming, I was saying I'm over here blaspheming, and God could have went and fed some starving people in Sudan. God could have uplifted some children out of the Congo. could have healed some people suffering from violence in Haiti, could have stopped a bomb or two in Palestine, but God said, nope, I'm going to mute this nigga's mic and glitch his camera. Therefore, he will know that I am the Alpha Omega. Corny. But I digress. I'm going to keep pushing forward. If I don't get no boils, God knows, man. He knows the Lord knows my heart. He knows a glitching mic and camera are not going to turn me around. Give me a boil. But then I'm going to just have the boil lanced and take some antibiotics. I'll tell you this before I get back to my topic. Even if everything in the Bible was true, I'd just be hellbound. I'd have to go to hell because ain't no way I could rock with dude. Ain't no way I could rock with dude. I'm supposed to be up in heaven while billions, if not trillions of people are down below me torturing. I wouldn't sit up here on the second floor with my wife living a good life knowing she got people tied up torturing them in the basement. I wouldn't be with nobody that would do some shit. And even if she told, oh, no, they did not acknowledge who I was. I said, did you tell them? No, I hid away from them their whole lives. I hid away. But I left little hints. So I'm going to torture them motherfuckers forever. Like, okay, I love you, but I'm going to go ahead and be out. But I guess. Where was I? Oh, so just give me the rationale. So these same people who reject the science of climate change, reject mitigations coming from the state, also send people into the government to impose theocratic rule and limitations other people who do want to acknowledge and work. At the same time, they say, we're living in the last days. We're living in apocalyptic times. There is evidence that from Israel to the gay people in America and the gay to Pride Parade to the conflict in Israel, that there is evidence that we are in the last days and God's second return. He left as a lamb. He will return as a lion. But on top of that, all these motherfuckers do all that shit. But the moment the water rises in their house, the moment the tree falls, the moment the tornado comes, them same people who disbelieve climate change, who reject remedies for climate change, who elect public officials who promise them that they will stop any type of mitigation of climate change, who say that the world is just a way station and the flesh is unclean and unworthy, and I will go on to paradise. They line up for FEMA. They line up for remedies. They allow, when the insurance companies want to insure them, they run and get public insurance. Somebody lying. Somebody ain't keeping it a buck. But the fact that people believe that the earth has an expiration date, that it has nothing to do with geology, has nothing to do with the sun and the heavenly bodies, who do not have a scientific understanding of the nature of life and the complexity and the web of life, who believe that that all of existence was created for them to have a human experience on which they praise God and demonstrate their worthiness of God, have done a lot of damage. Throughout the world and throughout cultures, these Western religions, Islamic, Christian, and Jewish, have destroyed ecosystems. And as they adopt new technologies and develop new technologies and make their system more efficient, they exacerbate. Now, there is a small group of Christians that aren't very popular or very prominent who engage in what is called creation care. And these are what you call the ecological Christians. The ecological Christians believe that climate change is real, that it's caused by human beings, and that human beings can affect policies and take stances to reverse the carbon emissions and destruction of the ecosystem. Now, these people engaged in creation care get a lot of love. I don't know what's happening here. Get a lot of love and support and celebration from secular people saying, well, these are the type of Christians we need. But the fact that they start from the orientation that they still have a warped sense, because they believe, even though they believe in climate change, believe that climate change is human driven, and advocate for policies to mitigate climate change, they still believe that the world and the universe was created by God, and they believe that human beings are ordained and destined. So they still believe in that hierarchy, that humans have to be caretakers of the world, when much of the world would just be fine if humans left it a fuck alone, which leads them to believe in other things, like when there are certain policies that humans can create to that, although they can mitigate climate change, like nuclear power, they do, because nuclear power, they argue, has lower rates of carbon emission than, fossil fuel. So they'll push for things that will lower carbon emission, but they don't push for things that preserve the planetary ecosystem, because they don't tend to grasp the understanding that the world does not have a fixed expiration date, and that humans are not worthy or even necessary to be at the top of the hierarchy of living things, that humans do not have dominion over all things that fly, crawl, and swim upon the earth. So even when they acknowledge some components of it, there's still a core rot that is eventually going to take them off. That's going to eventually lead them into conflict with rational, secular people, and lead them into conflict of what's best for the world. So it is very interesting as you watch how the Trump administration, or the Trump campaign, he does no longer knows, but how the Trump campaign is politicizing this, and he's drumming up the delusional right-wing Christian conservative. And now they're saying, because Trump during his administration worked to destroy the EPA and destroy FEMA, you have a lot of reactionary black people who believe that there's some grand conspiracy that FEMA is somehow an internalized military force that is coming to take away our freedoms and put us all in concentration camps. Now, there's a lot of problems with FEMA, but the main problems coming from FEMA as a direct byproduct of the budgetary pressures and the capitalistic oversight and the political oversight for remedies. So they go out and buy these cheap ass trailers. They go out and get cheap equipment, and then their dispersal. And FEMA operates off of our collective revenues. Our collective wealth is what builds FEMA. And then we are to elect officials who appoint oversight and lay out the policy to bring us remedies. So FEMA is not even a welfare agency, because it's already paid for by the people to go to where the concern is. But you have a lot of reactionary religious people, and you have a lot of conservative people who are extremely contradictory, where they believe the world is ending, and they believe that the end of the world is a good thing, but they step up and gobble up the lion's share of resources for rescue and rebuilding, when they should just, or hurricanes come, and just go out and present yourself. Thine will be done. I'd have more respect. No, I wouldn't. I still think they were idiotic, because I don't think they should do that. But when the hurricane, the tornado, the forest fire, thine will be done. But these people, these religious people, want God's will to be done in everybody else's fucking life. You can't be gay. You can't have an abortion. You can't just sleep in on a Sunday morning. You got to get up and go to church. But then when it comes to their life, to hell with God's will. Save me. Rescue me. Make me whole. Come and rebuild my house. Come and drain out all the flood waters. And this is really a problem, because climate change is getting worse. and the capitalistic individualism and the Christian apocalypse mentality is going to make it so that as the infrastructure becomes overtaxed, as resources are concentrated at the top through capitalism, and people become more distrustful, more hostile, more atomized, or as Marx would call it, as people begin to suffer and more from capitalist alienation, as things fall down, what is necessary as the infrastructure, the state, and all things around us begin to implode, corrode, collapse, it is more and more necessary to have interdependence, cooperation, communalism. But also Christianity tells you that man, the nature of man is that you're born into sin. Men are lustful. Mankind is wicked and evil. So you don't even have a fundamental culture or value systems that tells you that people are even capable of being humane without the Lord. And then that humanity that comes as a byproduct of the Lord is highly restrictive and dehumanizing. So these red state people have pretty much demonstrated that they're not going to hold to their word. They're going to do everything they can to prevent us from stopping climate change. At the same time, they're going to be there at the front of the line to suck up all the resources and infrastructure. The very senators and congressmen who vote against funding for FEMA, progressive taxation of multinational corporations, taxing billionaires in order to pay for mitigation and repair after climate change. The very same politicians that refuse to advance regulation, building regulations, stopping people from building into floodplain, stopping the cutting of old growth forests, the building of seawalls, the cessation of supplementing the meat industry, which is outside of automobiles, the largest emitter of greenhouse gas, which is methane. So putting restrictions or cessations on the meat consumption, stop supplementing meat consumption, creating walkable cities, investing in the infrastructure for public and mass transportation. The very politicians that stop all of that go to their districts, their red Republican, Christian, conservative districts, pro-capitalist districts, and say, well, here, they show up like fucking Santa Claus and dispense all of this government aid, these anti-welfare, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And we who are progressives, we who are leftists, even you liberals and even you Democrats, let it happen. And then you were, well, we're going to be the bigger people. We're going to go. Even though, remember when Trump was in office and New York had that flooding. Remember when Puerto Rico had a hurricane, he was like, why are we sending all this money down to Puerto Rico? We should be spending this money in America. He don't even understand U.S. obligation and relationship, political relationship, that for all intents and purposes, Puerto Rico is America. And he thinks spending money in Puerto Rico is spending money on a foreign country. Stupid motherfucker. So all that to say that it's not enough for us to target capitalism. We have to target Christianity, Judeo-Christianity, Islamic, world religions, male chauvinist murder cults as aggressively as we target capitalism if we want to restore the planet's ecosystem and be able to navigate the worst ravages, because we've already crossed many thresholds. If we want to be able as a species to endure and not bring about this apocalypse that they all claim they want, but they don't want that apocalyptic smoke. Christian religious people love apocalypse until some apocalyptic shit happens. I mean, their religion, the word biblical. If you call something biblical, you're literally talking about widespread, unmitigated destruction. That's what the word biblical means. Why would you worship and follow something like that? But I see a lot of people who are intelligent enough to deal with climate change, to challenge climate change, and they give so much attribution of the climate change to capitalism. You know, capitalist production, built, designed for the dump, all the externalities. And if you don't understand capitalism, if you don't understand externalities, there would be no profit if there were no externalities. And if you really want to deal with capitalism, you got to deal with maximum wage, and you got to deal with eliminating all externalities. But I digress. A lot of people who are well aware, who accept the science and reality of climate change and global warming, carbon emissions, the collapse of biodiversity as a result of pollution and industrial expansion, industrial overreach in pursuit of short-term profits. We understand all of this, but all the people that I've been a part of, that I've worked with, that I've organized with, nobody ever talks about how religion is also an engine of climate change. How religion puts the vast majority of humanity in a position saying the earth is doomed and it's not worth saving. And there is something better than this life and this flesh, and that we rule over all animals. And if we see fit to allow the polar bears and the Bengal tigers and all these other complex life forms to die off, then so be it, because they don't have souls. So if you are not fighting religion as hard as you fighting capitalism, you're not truly interested in saving the earth. You're not ready to have the real conversation about what's destroying the life-sustaining capacity of the earth. Christianity is a partner to capitalism in destroying the life-sustaining capacity of the earth because of its teaching, because of its values. And the true Christians, the true Muslims, the true Jews understand that this can't be reformed. Even capitalism, if Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton are to be believed, they really say that capitalism can be regulated and reformed. It is necessary and appropriate to regulate and reform. Christianity can't be regulated or reformed because this is the divine word of the Almighty. And it's heresy and blasphemy to change the word of God. So in many ways, it's even worse. And it's looking like Christianity and these other male chauvinist murder cults were around before capitalism, and they intend to be around capitalism. And they bring about the very thing. How can you believe that the world is doomed to end and truly respect or love the planet? So I'm telling you, biblical, political. If you are, and I've been part of the green movement since 1992. I've been engaged in advocating for everything from animal rights to environmental preservation on every front, from protests to working in my local community. I've been in the pro-environmental green movement since 1992, really before that. But that's when I really committed to being ecological in my own practices and promoting ecological practices while teaching and fighting against the people destroying the earth. And whenever I say, well, yeah, the corporations and the government are bad, but the religions are bad too. In fact, most of the people in corporations and most of the people in government believe in God. Their fundamental value and belief system comes from Christianity. So how are you mad at the people? Where do you think their ideas, when they get elected to office or they get appointed to CEO, where do you think their ideas? Because you love seeing those books because y'all want to be rich too. And they talk about rich, wealthy people, millionaires and billionaires. They're all married. They tend to have a faith system, mostly Christianity, but Islam. They are married people of faith. And you even have people out here, you want to be rich, find you a good partner, a helpmeet in life, and find you a belief system that grounds you with God and da-da-da. And I'm sick of Christianity, Islam, Judaism getting a pass on this. Now, there are a lot of people that will level criticisms. They're homophobic, they're sexist, they're repressive, they want to deny people's rights, they're violating the separation of church and state. I think that religion is getting a pass on how destructive it is on Earth's ecosystems and how it justifies and allows people to rationalize the destruction of Earth's ecosystem. And now that red states, the Mason, below the Mason-Dixon line, these evangelical strongholds, Utah and droughts, and even Kansas and Missouri, and places like Nebraska, all these red states where they grow corn and they grow wheat, and they have to run to the government every election cycle and beg for all these mitigations, because number one, they're suffering from drought, and they're putting more and more petroleum-based fertilizer on the dead soil. And whenever any type of reform comes to say, well, we need more biodiversity, you have to stop using these harmful chemicals, you have to stop using these petroleum-based fertilizers, I was about to say big meat, big agriculture. Big agriculture comes in and stops. Monsanto, Cargill. And we still have the image of a farmer not being some billionaire wearing a tailored suit sitting at the top of a skyscraper. Those are the fucking farmers. You still thinking of a man in overalls on a tractor, when many of those tractors are drones guided by satellites. Farming ain't what you think it is. Take your ass to Smithville, Missouri. Take your ass to central rural Kansas and look at the scale. This is industrial farming. This is industrial agriculture that is supplemented to the tunes of billions of dollars. Trump just saturated. You talk about the little check Trump sent you. When Trump started that trade war with Kansas, with China, and China was like, we ain't buying no more wheat or corn from you motherfuckers. Since y'all want to play trade war, let's play trade war, because the vast majority of what's grown in America is shipped overseas. And then we're going to patent food. We're going to patent seeds, and where someone can hold a copyright on a genetic code, a trademark on a living reproductive thing. That meaning, if I go out and buy a seed and grow it in this house, I have to pay them royalties. Or even worse than that, they got this Terminator technology. And the Christians will talk all this shit about God's creations, but they're the main people allowing for this shit to happen. Abominations. You want to call a man in a dress an abomination, as if the men who wrote the fucking Bible didn't wear what we would call a dress today. But you won't call somebody genetically modifying seeds an abomination. So all that to say, that's my conclusion of today. We have to attack the world religions for their role, and we have to dismantle the power and institutions of the world religions as aggressively as we dismantle the power of the capitalist and multinational corporations, if we seek to maintain biodiversity, if we seek to maintain the balance of life, to maintain the oxygen levels, the purity of the water, the breathability of the air, and the oxygen saturation of the earth, the phytoplankton. If we seek to maintain a livable planet, we cannot have value systems, belief systems that tell us that this world is nothing but a way station, that this flesh is sinful and dirty, and we will go on to eternal life. You're not going to have an eternal afterlife. God damn it. Stop believing that shit. There's no evidence of it to support it. And even if there was an eternal afterlife, just go read your Bible. It sounds shitty as fuck. Milk and honey is gross. And who wants to walk on streets paved with gold? That's shitty as fuck. You know what that shit'll do to your fasciae? Fuck your knee joints and your hip joints all fucked up. And you can't even have no good sex. I can't talk about sex because somebody gonna run and tell the doctor, but I'm sure God's not gonna allow that little rose thing. No pornography, no pinky in heaven. So even if it was real, you shouldn't want to go. And what did Dr. John Henry, not John, no, Dr. What's his name? John G. Jackson. John G. Jackson first said, the only Lord any Negro's ever going to meet is the landlord. But he also said, even if heaven is real, after the first 1,000 years, you're not going to notice the fire no more. And all the most brilliant, the most cool, the most, the best musicians, the best comedians there, you know they're gonna be in hell. You think Bernie Mac's in heaven? If heaven, Bernie Mac gonna be in heaven, roasting Satan. Who wants to miss that? So anyway, I digress. That's the message of the day. Stop giving religion a pass for the horrible things it does to the um, for the horrible things it does. I'm going to open up for questions, comments, and criticisms. And I'm also about to hit y'all up. I'm about to pass around the virtual collection plate. Brothers and sisters, gather round, gather round. If you appreciate revolutionary Pan-Africanist uh, thought, evidence-based criticism and critiques, and other things that I do here, telling me and Dr. Mingo's business on the internet. If you appreciate anything I do here, please like, share, subscribe. Share the show with your enemies, allies, haters, lovers, and participators. Share it far and wide. You can also support the BroDiallo broadcast. Cash App me, Venmo me, so I can get a camera that don't glitch out and a mic that don't play games with me when I'm blaspheming, making me look stupid. So anyway, shout out to my Patreon. I just saw this afternoon I got a new Patreon supporter. So I'm going to be working to fulfill my obligations to my Patreon. I hold my head in shame. If there is a God, he will punish me for how I do my Patreons. Y'all some long suffering. And I appreciate my Patreons. I wouldn't be here if it not for y'all. And the rest of y'all can support in various ways. There's so many ways to support. No excuse not to. Even if you ain't got no ducats. If you ain't got no tithes and offering, you can go out and spread the word as a humble missionary. And like I said, like, share, subscribe, all that. So I shared the link for your questions, comments, and criticisms. I stored a couple of comments. So this is where we at. I got Polo Young. Polo Young, welcome to the BroDiallo broadcast. Question, comment, criticism?
Thank you for having me, good brother. One of the things I thought about as you were going on your, I guess we're going to call them lectures, good self, was I don't think the populace en masse have the language to attack religion to the scale that you're recommending. While I see the need for it, I don't know I don't know where a de-radicalization, de-religionizing project will come from. So, one of the things I guess I thought of was, unfortunately, we might have to start leveraging the upcoming catastrophe, um, being able to point out the contradictions of unfortunately, where is your Lord now? Because the reality is, uh, like you said, when the shit hits the fan, God is not there for them, unfortunately. But what they do have is our collective dollars, and they don't even want to direct that correctly. So,
I don't think that will work, and here's why. Christians specifically, but most religious people, they have a very severe persecution complex. So it is a masochistic religion. So you find that, hey, when I got money, when I'm living good, when I got everything I want in life, the Lord is blessing me. But when I'm down bad, the Lord is testing me. So if we, the non-believers, come and say, where's your God now? That's exactly what they said to Christ. Remember, when they were stringing up Jesus, they mocked him. So if you mock them, it kind of fulfills their delusion. It reinforces the delusion when you say, where's your God now? So I don't think that's an approach to have. I think that we have to appeal to what they already believe. Like if they believe, so okay, this is because when I challenge someone, I don't challenge them based on what I believe. I challenge them on what they're asserting. So if a man comes and says, well, I'm a Muslim or I'm a Christian, then I'll start to argue with him the tenets and rationality of that. So I don't say, well, I'm an atheist, so I'm going to impose. So I think one of the best, but here's some good news. The reality is devangelism is already happening. Christianity is collapsing. Now, even though and here's the thing that destroys Christianity more than anything. and I hate to say it, but it's true, educating and giving opportunities to women. So if you really want to attack religion, you have to attack patriarchy and sexism. So a lot of women are like, God damn it, I can't even get my reproductive. They took away my right to abortion. Now they're trying to take away my right to contraception. And so what is the most harmful thing to religion is critical thinking and access to education. But if we and I know this is going to sound weird coming from me, mocking and ridiculing them has its role, but what it will do is if you have a believer who's already questioning and doubting, it will give them the support like, hey, this guy's over here talking down on my Lord and Savior and he hasn't been struck by lightning. It'll help the people on the fence. But what I also see is it further entrenches those because every believer has entrenched in their own psychology a persecution complex, meaning the world is against you. Christianity is one of the most dominant forces and powerful forces in the world. And you meet the average Christians and they'll promise you that they're the ones being persecuted. Christians believe that the very people they oppress and attack are persecuting them when they fight back or speak up. So I believe in general, in the open way, you can mock religion, but when it comes person to person, I think we have to show concern and real humanity and try to educate them as opposed to mocking. That's been my approach.
I got you. Um, and I guess that leads down the line of when I think of the people in my life who are most entrenched of it, that's the sisters. Um, and so two thoughts that came to mind. So part of what you mentioned was we have to educate and reach them at with their tenets and what they believed. So it sounds like the non-believers, much like the concept of how black people must analyze white people, we must know our enemies. It sounds like we need to be as well versed in these religions as well in order to meet the people, at least on a local level. That sounds like seeing where your people are at locally and trying to reach them there. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, like my people always talk about you got to respect. You ain't going to reach people by disrespecting their religion and stuff like that, right? And my rule is I show the level of respect for any religion that it has shown to African people and African theology, which pretty much frees me up. you know, I was like, I give as good as I get. So if you can demonstrate to me how your religion has shown respect for African people and African concepts and philosophies, that level of respect that your religion has shown to me and mine, I'll show to that religion, which pretty much allows me to pretty much disrespect any religion except maybe Jainism, you know, because even Hindus and Buddhists. But I digress. So, but on a person to person level, like family member level, you have to, if you know someone personally, I think, because I know I've stopped people. It's really, you have to know the person. If you're really doing it on a person to person level as far as a broad scope, because I had one homie that was locked up and wanted to convert to Islam, and I started sending him all this information about Islam and its relationship to Africa, past and present, enslavement, ecocide, genocide, and just the deep-seated racism that has been a part of Islam since its founding, its inception. And he didn't convert to Islam, but he got heavily into Christianity. Because when he was converting to Islam, I assumed that Christianity wasn't doing it for him. So I was assuming that I didn't have to speak to him about Christianity anymore. I just had to school him on how Islam is not it's not a move up, it's a lateral move. But then he went heavily into Christianity until this day, and he won't even have a discussion with me about Christianity because he knows how I made Islam unpalatable for him. So you have to cater on a person to person, and I call it devangelism.
Thank you for the word.
Yeah, I devangelize. I think it is a moral obligation for every African to at least attempt to bring any African they encounter out of colonial slave oppressor religions.
Cool. You got time for another
Yeah,
pos-
yeah, yep. And I
what
just
is
share the link. Anybody else that wants to come on live, or you can type your question, comment, or criticism in the comments.
what are your thoughts on religion being a part of our um, evolution?
It's not. Religion is not part of human evolution. It is part of our cultural development. Um, all cultures have mythologies, folklores, legends, fantasy, and some cultures are better at others than allowing into formulating um, fantasy into a system of behaviors, restrictions, and allowances than others. So you have, not all religions are the same, but all cultures have created some concept of the supernatural, some concept of the unknown that has been part of our development. So humans made it, but I don't believe that it is part of our evolution, even though our brains evolved and the way we develop, but I think it's more cultural. You have some cultures in society that were more essentially secular and some that were highly religious, and the level of secularism or religion in the society or godless societies, it evolved. But I don't think it's anything that is natural. I don't think it's anything that is necessary, but because it is so prominent and powerful, we might think it's essential. But there was a time where monarchs were seen as the natural status of man. Like every nation has a king, every culture develops a monarch, a monarchy. So it's kind of like monarchy. You find monarchy or absolute leaders throughout civilization as civilization developed. But now a monarch is a thing of the past. The vast majority of nations and power systems are not monarchical. Even money. Well, money, everybody has money. Everybody want to get that paper. But money is a relatively new invention. So religion is a human invention that has become, that has really entrenched and made itself extremely powerful. But it's not, I don't think it's natural. And if it was natural, you wouldn't have to cut out people's tongues and burn people at the stake or have unrelenting propaganda in order to sustain it. If something like sex is natural, you don't have to propagandize, force, manipulate people into having sex. They're going to have sex. They get into a dark corner in the forest, they're going to have sex. But as far as forming a religion and the nature of religion, I don't see it as that. I wouldn't give it that much credit or power.
So, well, I understand you from the aspect of the religion being enforced long ago, way before it was introduced to us and had to be introduced to us by the sword. Now that it's here, now that we've got it, one thing that I think about, what makes me think that there's a evolutionary piece of religion, is it seems like, regardless, and maybe I don't have the evidence of how secular people react or how people in a secular society would react. But one thing I notice is when we're at our lowest, when it's, I think it's that point between we snap, or between life or death, it seems like, or you know how people describe when they hit rock bottom, those are the times where religion comes in.
Right.
Um, one of the tales that I think of, I wish I could remember the Native American's name, but towards the end of the colonization, when the natives were driven down, there was some revolutionary Native American who, a new religion he had came across him. Was it Tecumseh? I don't know if that's correct, but and it gave them, one thing I saw was a final fighting chance that it gave the Native Americans, that they were able to organize. Essentially, they got to organize, and have one last attempt at, you know, armed resistance.
Mm. Are you saying that's because of religion or beliefs?
Well, yeah. So essentially, from what I understand, much of the 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 way Tecumseh, I hope that's the name, got people to follow was appealing to them on this newfound religion, new understanding of the goddess that spoke to them, that gave them a new invigoration.
Okay. Yeah, but humans are stimulated and rally around symbols.
Hmm.
But that could be a flag, that could be an omen, there could be an eclipse in the sky. But the one of the issues around that, when you have someone rally around something that is baseless and make believe, it's transient. How do you sustain that?
Hmm.
So I do think the human imagination is powerful, and I think I wrote an essay that the greatest, and the basic point of the essay is the greatest thing we lost as African people was not our land, our languages, our knowing our our lineage. The greatest thing the African lost in enslavement and colonization was the African imagination. That most Africans cannot see a world without capitalism, without white hegemony, without money and accumulation and their type of technology. And we don't even conceive of a world. Most of even our greatest revolutionaries, going back to Garvey, their best they can conceptualize is a black version of white shit.
Hmm.
When we created civilizations before there were any white people on the planet. So the African imagination. So yeah, if you can tap into the human imagination, it's a very powerful tool, but it's short lived. Eventually you're going to have to appeal to their intellect and to their ideology, or you can create a time where Africans can rise up and decapitate slave masters like in Haiti and then fall back to basically neo-slavery. Or
Hmm.
Africans can rise up and burn every city in this country like in the 60s and force the government to make concessions, and then we're going back to the new Jim Crow.
Right.
So symbols, whether that person is a martyr, having Dr. King as a martyr, or having the our ancestors in the Orisha rally around, or the coronation of King Haile Selassie, all these things that are some we interpret as divine or supernatural, ultimately will fall by the wayside if you cannot develop an intellectual, grounded, rational foundation. For all the rhetoric of the so-called founding fathers of America or the colonizers, you'll look at most of their sustained systems are around their culture and ideology from a intellectual point of view. Revolution is an intellectual endeavor. Changing someone's belief can get them to do some amazing or crazy shit, but only changing how they think can you get them to create and sustain a system or a society or a civilization. So I hope I answered your questions. I appreciate you coming through, and I hope you come back. And because I got some more people waiting. So until next time, bro.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it, JL. I'll see you next time.
Okay, Hassana, welcome to the
Hi,
BroDiallo broadcast. You got question,
hi.
comment, criticism?
Sure. Hi, Diallo.
How you doing?
Um, I'm doing very good.
Good.
I have a quick question. So I had a candidate in mind. I wanted to vote for this coming election, but I was very shocked to hear the idea of liberation theology. I can't even believe someone is trying to preach that in 2024. I know that's not a reason for me not to give my vote. But am I wrong in having, especially as an African, is it wrong for me to just have a problem with someone teaching liberation theology?
No, I oppose the fallacy of liberation theology, but I would. But when you're voting for someone, you're voting for a bureaucrat and you're voting for a policy platform. So the personal beliefs of a person are relevant, but having a belief or drawing a conclusion that I disagree with is not as important as having policy platform that I do support. So, and you're not even voting for an individual, you're voting for an administration, you're voting for a cabinet, you're voting based on the appointments they will make and the coalitions they can build with the legislative branch. So, someone accepting or spewing the nonsensical rhetoric about liberation theology would not stop me from voting for them, you know, uh, because of all the other factors related to holding public office. but I do disagree with it, and I would express that. And I don't think it's appropriate to talk about that on the campaign because we live in a secular society and we have a secular government. So I don't even know how liberation theology should even be relevant to a political campaign.
I agree, and I really would like to say that I like where you're going with today's topic. How would we go about, like, um, I guess, countering religion in the way
Well,
that we can?
we Fred Hampton told us we have to raise the contradiction. There are several abuses and so-called scandals within the religious community that don't have legs. You know, for every P. Diddy, some major public figure who's arrested, there are literally dozens of local ministers, local men, local atrocities are committed on a small scale that don't get attention. So from the African continent to the entire African diaspora, we have to start articulating these abuses of the church and people who adhere to that belief system. So just exposing it, just holding a mirror up, not making up stories, not lying to it. Because if I'm in opposition to someone, if you come and tell me a lie about them, that will lend to their credibility. So simply holding up a mirror, talking about the billions of dollars that the church takes. So educating people about the realities of religious beliefs. Also, we as a secular community have to give viable alternatives. There is a lot because God doesn't exist. There's no super magical or natural powers, but there are material benefits from being associated with a church. Standing in status within your community, there are certain resources, there are certain social and emotional outlets. As someone says, they don't, in the comments, they love gospel music. I love reggae, Rastafarian music, Bung Dung Babylon. I love roots music even though I know Selassie is not the second coming of Christ. So we have to begin to create secular community, opportunities for our people to come together, not just to organize, not just to protest, not just to build, but to simply be relaxed, to have fun. Every time I've been a part of an organization, I've always valued, we should value the political work as much as we value the leisure, the music, the dance, the camaraderie, the children playing, the food, fragrances, and arts component of it. A lot of times, we in the secular, atheist, rational community, because we are so pressed, because we don't have the resources or status as others, we think, well, we can neglect that because it's all about the work. And you got people walking around being organizers. But as Emma Goodman said, I don't want to be a part of a revolution that won't allow me to dance. And I think we
Makes
need to
sense.
learn from that. I had a organization that I founded here, the Black Oppression Opposition Movement or the Boom Movement, and we always had like an event planner. We would recruit and organize with and have event planners to plan communal events, and that wasn't just to hit them over the head with Pan African revolutionary, Pan African rhetoric, but no, we just here to play some good music, showing that there is uplifting revolutionary music. We had a yearly Gil Scott Heron festival. I ain't nobody's fool because he was born on April's 1st. And he had a famous quote, I was born on April Fool's, but I'm nobody's fool. So we had nobody's fool's day. And every April 1st, we come together and play music and have different artists display. So that's what we do. We educate people about the atrocities, historical and ongoing atrocities of the religion, and raise the contradiction, sharing the information, the honest, accurate assessment, and then trust people to do what they will with it. We ain't got to inflate it or lie. We ain't got to lie on them. And then we create viable alternatives to what the Christian or religious community gives to our people.
Thank you very much. Thank you
All
for
right.
your
Thank you
time.
too. All right.
Yes.
Hope to hear from you again, sis.
Sure. Take
All
care.
right. Sith Lord, live and direct, question, comment, criticism.
Yeah, can you hear me? Because I'm
Loud and
using
clear.
like my headphones now.
Yeah, it's all right. I can hear you.
Sorry. First of all, I just desperately and deeply want to like appreciate all the criticism that you have from the church.
Mhm.
Just to introduce like the topic I want to bring up in our discussion. I grew up very evangelical in a very Zionist, evangelical, multicultural, white supremacist church. But until I lived in Ghana for about a year, and of course, visiting all the slave dungeons and things like that throughout the coast, and seeing a church on top of these slave dungeons. Jesus Christ really died in my heart that day, and he ain't been alive ever since, right?
Mm.
And that also goes for just this like idea of like who God is or whatever. But now that was like what, 10 years ago. Now 10 years later, I do think though that there is a lack of like the functions of our psychology as we are struggling through these material conditions. I do think that these mythic symbols that we do project onto the masses are mirror reflections of the material and social conditions that do exist of the day. And so one of the things that I hear from you that I'm always kind of concerned about, even amongst like hardcore Marxist Leninists, Maoist or atheists or whatever, is that, okay, I'm down with the whole idea of denouncing God and things like that. Okay, that's fine with me. But we are social animals. And because that we are social animals, we do have a deeply psychological response to create meanings and symbols around just how we live. And those symbols deeply do inform the ways that our material conditions are structured, our social relationships are constructed, and things like that. So, like for me, one of the things I just wish from the left, irregardless if they're a brother like you and I, or like Dr. Ball or whoever, or Claudia or whoever, it's just, why not just, come to an understanding about these symbolic associations for what things are. Like, okay, yeah, Christ is not fucking real. Like, he's not, never existed. I get that. And somebody who was like a good Christian boy for many years, I totally get that. But the Christ symbol is a symbol of social and psychological unity that has been in development in the deepest part of Africa, but they never call it that. And there's several books.
How did that happen?
It just happened through forces
Oh,
of, bro, I'm not trying to say like this shit is real. Like what I'm trying to
I'm not
say is
saying
just
that's
like,
real.
oh,
I'm
let me
asking
finish, man.
how.
You're not gonna do me like EYL, bro. Let me finish my thought, brother. Like this is what I'm trying to say. It's just like at the end of the day, it's just like this. It's just like there are. I think we just need more of. I think we should inquire a little bit more amongst the left, especially as African peoples, about. We just need more psychoanalysis, maybe on a critical scale. Cedric Robinson talks about that in chapter 8 of Terms of Order. Orlando Patterson talks about that in his book Slavery and Social Death, and even James Moore in his book.
But I agree.
But I can't answer like how that process happens. But what I'm saying is that that should be a modality of inquiry amongst Black radicals.
I
Like,
agree.
but it can't just happen if we're saying that we're going to dismiss and treat religions as nothing, where in fact that like our
Where did I
enslaved
ever
family.
say we should dismiss or treat religion like nothing?
But bro, like we've been there, bro. Like, bro, I'm a Sith Lord for a reason. I be trying to rebel against that shit all the time. Like,
I never
I
say we
get
should dismiss it. I say we should engage it, acknowledge it. I acknowledge religion. I
okay.
acknowledge I study religion probably more than any religious person that's not formally trained theologian or theologist. I respect and understand the power of religion, and then I orient and organize to subvert it.
But what I guess what I'm trying to get at is like,
There's
what
only
if we
one
were to
thing you
replace?
said I don't understand.
So like, what I'm trying to say is like, what if we were to replace religion altogether in our
We
vocabulary
don't need to
and just substitute that with just psychoanalysis?
How would we communicate with people? Why would we need to? Those are two words
Well,
that
I mean,
both
yeah,
have
yeah.
their own
That's a.
meaning.
I
Why
get
would
you.
we
I
say
get you on that.
word
No,
out of
I
both?
get you. No, look, I get you, right? Like the woman who I love, right, has bourgeois psychology and is a little bit religious. I get it. But like what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, we on the left should at least equip ourselves to understanding the ways that the material conditions do mirror the ways that our collective psychology makes
The left
associations.
already understands that better than any other population, than the center or the right or the status quo people. We understand it.
But like, if we do, then why are we having these kind of contradictions that we see on BLM and like, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, like, what's up, man? Like, what am I missing, man? Because
I
like
can't
when I'm
speak
reading
about
Robinson's
BLM. I
work,
can only speak about my shortcomings. Where do you see me falling? Because I agree. The only one thing I disagree that you were absolutely wrong about, and your response reinforced how you said, well, the Christian symbol, the crucifix, is a powerful symbol across all of Africa. And I said, how did that come to be? And you
whoa,
literally were like, it just
whoa,
is.
I
It
ain't
just
say all that.
happened.
I ain't say all that. No, I ain't say all that. I
Okay.
ain't say all that. I did not say that, brother. Ooh, we should have been on EYL if it was going down tonight. What I am saying is this, right? It's just like, I'm not talking about how Christ itself is a fundamental archetypal image of reproducing these religious practices that existed in Africa. That's not what I'm saying. Africa itself has had religious symbols and mythic symbols of social and psychological unity before there was ever Christ. But
Okay.
since we were brought into transatlantic slavery, I believe after reading books like The African Unconscious, and even Dr. Ball had that author. I got this book up here somewhere. Yeah, here it is by Dr. Edward Bynum. Like, I feel like he was really kind of talking over our heads, but when I listened to that interview, I was like, yo, that bro was fucking right. It's just that we are a very old archetypical people. That is to say that
No,
all
but
of these.
listen, throughout since the founding of revolutionary Pan-Africanism and Black liberationist struggles, there have been powerful symbols, great appeals to our emotions, to our ambitions, to our imaginations from the revolutionary liberationist
Yes,
component.
Cedric Robinson calls that the
I'm not
charisma. Yes,
sure, from the
absolutely.
RBG to the raised Black Power fist to leather jackets and berets,
Right.
rhythm and what's he say? Khalid Muhammad, revolution is 10 parts inspiration,
Yeah.
90 parts action, but he always had an inspirational and appeal to the emotion and to the imagination and the higher aspirations of the people. You're
Yeah.
saying
But
that we should
yeah.
do things that we're doing. So I can see you saying we need to do them more effectively, or we can make these particular changes. But what the condemnations or criticisms you're leveling against the left just don't belong, because everything you're
Bro,
saying
of
is
course they
missing has
belong.
been there.
Like, bro, I think they do belong. I think if anyone was to do a real serious reading of Cedric Robinson's text, Terms of Order, would really have to consider the ways in which the psychoanalysis level of material struggle has to be really taken into account. And so all I'm saying
Well, where
is,
has it not?
it,
What movement or ideology amongst the left that doesn't take that into account?
well, let's talk about that. Like, what are the ways in which the left really, like, Diallo? We all know, bro. Like, you have a strong. Now I'm just talking about you. I ain't talking about the left. Now I'm talking
I
about you.
appreciate that.
And respectfully, brother, like, I've looked up to you all these years, right? And this is our third go around online. But like, what I'm trying to say is just like, like, I totally get the ways in which religion can be destructive. And I think that when we do read Marxist texts about the ways in which hope and religion can kind of become an opium of the people, it does really kind of eclipse the ways in which the totality of human life actually functions. And there's never really an open dialogue about the ways in which these psychological forces of making associations to our real material conditions and how we create symbols and meanings, just like Cedric Robinson has talked about. He even says that myths are literally containers for epistemic wells of liberation.
I
So just
always
like,
listen. I say all the time that I fully appreciate and fully engage with. In fact, I love my main source of outlet: myths, folklores, and fantasy.
same.
The problem is not that I reject myth, folklore, and fantasies. I enjoy them. I share them. I promote them. I
Right.
engage them in every medium: movies, video games, text, is myth, folklore, and fantasy. The problem is not only does fantasy be transitions to the world of real
Mm-hmm.
and to become to the literal and real factual world, and people see folklore as real history, and then you think that that grants you a certain status and power over other people. That's
Well,
when it goes from being myth, folklore, fables, and fantasy to being a religion. When it goes from an outlet to help develop and cultivate the individual to being something that oppresses populations. And you keep saying that we need to do these things, and I see these things happening. I don't know of any revolutionary struggle that eschewed myths, fantasy, rhetoric, and all those things. Now, maybe there
but
are
we
some
dismiss it
individuals
though
that
in our
failed to
practice and
grasp that and
analysis
push
though.
that, but
Okay,
as
okay.
far as the larger leftist movement, it has always been present. It has always been present. You can't find a revolutionary struggle that didn't have a revolution in 3-point harmony, that didn't have revolutionary art, revolutionary culture, revolutionary stories and myths, and in fact,
So this is me, right? So like, look, I presented a whole presentation not too long ago about like how you can use mythologies as a point of critical inquiry to engage in the
but
ways in
before
which
you tell
we're
me about that, I don't understand what I agree with everything you're
okay.
saying, except for that one point that you denied saying. So I won't even hold you to that. So we
What
agree
point am
on
I
everything.
denying saying, brother? What point am I denying
I
saying,
asked
bro?
you why and how the Christian symbol became so prominent, and you literally said
No,
it
no, no.
just happened.
I'll go there. All right, I'll go there. If you give me 2 minutes, I'll go there.
I don't
Right,
have
I'll
two
get.
minutes. I got more people waiting, and I'm
Oh,
almost out of
okay.
time.
So you doing okay, bro?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I'm running scared. You got me, man. I'm running
No,
for
no,
the
you're
hills.
not running scared. But you know what, bro? I'm gonna get paid tomorrow. I'm gonna send you $20. But I will say
I
this,
appreciate
Diallo. I will say this. I'm dead serious. Like my sister got me into you,
it. Mm.
introduced me to you, and I was just like, yeah, bro. Like I look up to bro. So even though I have my criticisms and maybe they are underdeveloped, I'm always open for sure to have more discussions like this because it is really hard to have these kind of discussions amongst the left. So I appreciate what you do.
I appreciate you
Dead
too.
serious, and
I
I do
see. I
miss
know.
EYL, bro. I miss EYL hard, bro. Like,
That
y'all
ain't
made
on
my
me.
Friday mornings. I used to
That ain't
call
on
off
me.
work just to smoke weed to y'all. I loved it. So, anyways, I'm gonna hop off because
All
I know
right.
you got other folks in there. Appreciate
Until
you.
next time. All right. Peace. Namdi, I'm sorry. I appreciate you waiting so long, being so patient. The patience of a saint. And you got question, comment, criticism?
Uh, well, I
Good to
want to
hear from you,
say,
bro. Who's that
I
in
mean,
your picture?
oh, that's Marks.
Oh, that's Mark. I never seen that drawing.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's Marks. I got my friend kind of hit me on to it. He said you a big Marks fan, so he gave it to me. So
Oh,
my first question is because I know you ain't got that long.
no.
Have you ever heard of the professor from Nigeria named Sophia? I don't want to mess her last name up. I think it's Oluwayi. Oluwayi. I can't say her name. I know it's I think OLUWOLE.
Oluwoye.
Yeah,
Oluwoye lay?
yeah.
No,
Oh,
I
she
haven't.
could okay, cause she's a she before she passed, she like wrote a few books on like spirituality or not spirituality, but like the understanding of Western religion and like African religion. And her book, I got her books at my house. It's like it's an incredible like insight of like African understanding of what we call spirituality. But
Mm.
my first question is why is it that people have this like hang up where they think the church is revolutionary, but it was not the church that was revolutionary. It was like the revolutionaries who was in the church doing work. So where does that stem from? And also my other question is I guess why is there people who say they like
okay, I agree with the fact that we have to be more critical and rational in understanding religion, but they do not like really take time out to like really try to look up the history of these religions, of Islam, of Christianity, instead of just, I guess, running in circles, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Well, the two things. The reason why people believe that uh, Christianity is revolutionary is the same reason they don't read the history of Christianity. It's pure, I have to say, ignorance. And the root of the word ignorance is to ignore. So you had people literally fighting against oppression. And because history is written by the winners, they are relegated back to being beneficiaries of the very things, or warriors on behalf of the very thing that's oppressing them. So the revolutionary Muslims and revolutionary Christians, um, black people who like Malcolm X or Nat Turner, they were actually fighting against the very system that they were under title to. But because they were under colonialism and oppression and enslavement, they were under the very institutions under which they rebelled. So I was born in the United States as a byproduct of slavery. My ancestors were enslaved in this country. And so I speak English and I live in the United States. And it's, as I struggle for freedom, am I an English revolutionary? Am I an American revolutionary? You can rebrand people, but if you look at their actions and their behaviors from Malcolm X or Nat Turner or any black Christians or Muslims, if you look at their actions and you look at the tenets of their faith, you'll find that the only way they could have been revolutionaries is they violated many of the fundamental tenets of their faith. So people tell me Nat Turner or even Marcus Garvey was both a Christian and a capitalist. But if you look at what they practiced, so basically people can say that Christianity has revolutionary potential, or that there are revolutionary Christians, if they're ignorant of the people who they call revolutionary and ignorant of the teachings. And it's the same thing with, what was the other part you were talking about? What was the other part? Because you talk about Christianity and revolutionary Christians, and then there was
Uh,
another part.
I said, why do people think that like that the church is revolutionary? And
Oh, and history. You asked why they don't
yeah,
read the history.
yeah.
Well, they don't read the history because documented history, documented archaeology, biology, all of the legitimate academic intellectual pursuits and all of the scientific inquiries contradict the Bible and the Quran and the Torah. So to be a Christian, you have to engage in willful ignorance. And then everybody knows what brought about the downfall of man: eating from the tree of knowledge. So since its inception, these world religions have had a antagonism or hostility towards not just science and scientific inquiry, but even philosophy, thinking different. Christians were cutting the tongues out of scientists and scholars and astronomers. They were persecuting these people and murdering these people since the religion took state power. So
Okay.
you can be an educated Christian, but you're an educated Christian engaged in delusion. But you cannot be a non-delusional or non-dishonest Christian. To engage in faith, you have to have a core uh, acceptance of falsehood and delusion to be a person of faith. And you'll
Hmm.
find a lot of scientists that say, well, I know what I study and research goes against this, but that's why I am of faith. You only have faith in things you can't know or unwilling to know. And I can say there's a lot of things I believe. There's a lot of things that I have to draw conclusions on that I don't know, but I know that I don't know those things. So Christianity and these religious beliefs not only uh, prevent people from pursuing facts and truth, it demonizes those who do. So that's why Christianity is inherently, or belief, religious belief, supernatural belief is inherently anti-intellectual.
Okay, I I, I agree with that. I have, yeah, I got no, yeah, that was it. That was my only question. That was my.
I appreciate you, bro, and and your ongoing support of the Bro Diallo show, Bro Diallo broadcast.
I mean, I appreciate
I see you,
all the
bro.
work you do, bro. Yeah, man, I appreciate all the work you do. I don't know. I stumbled onto you like a few years ago, bro. So I'm humbled to even be, here and actually listen to you, man. So thank you for having me on.
Appreciate you too as well, bro. And you keep up your good work. I see it. I'm following you too.
I'll try, man. I appreciate it.
Keep
Thanks,
preaching
man.
and teaching, bro.
And I was wondering, maybe I'm thinking about sometime, hopefully next month, if I'm in Chicago, is it okay if we can, I'll buy you I guess, what's your favorite oatmeal latte? If we can sit
Yeah,
down and,
yeah, you have been listening. Hell yeah, come holler,
all right, man, definitely, man. Okay.
holler, man. Yeah, let me know. Don't you come through my town without checking in.
I'm definitely gonna stop by. I gotta, see some family, man. So I'm gonna be up there,
Absolutely,
man. I
I'm looking
definitely,
forward to that.
like to sit
It's
down and
something to
talk
look
to you,
forward
man.
to. Good,
All
because
right.
I hate the winter. It's cold here, so now I got something to look forward to. We definitely getting
All
our
right, brother.
oatmeal latte. All right, I see you soon, bro.
Yep.
Peace. Okay, Quan, very patient. I appreciate your level of
No,
patience.
it's okay.
And you
Thank you.
gonna close us out tonight, bro? You
No,
got
I just
comment or criticism?
I just wanted to say thank you for putting this black thought out here. I got a lot of the same views as you, and like when I tell my peers like I'm anti-capitalism and I'm atheist, they just look at me like I'm fucking crazy.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to know I'm not out here alone. I really appreciate it. But yeah, no.
Don't be apologetic. Like I don't run up on people screaming, "Hey, I'm an atheist." But if you bring yours out, if you put yours out on the table, I'm putting mine out.
Yeah, exactly.
So we could all, like Malcolm said, keep it in the closet. But it ain't no way you gonna come out with your delusions, and I can't come with my facts. I think facts and rationality needs to be as aggressive and assertive, if not more, than delusion.
Yep, that's very true. Yep, that's all I wanted to say. Thank
Oh,
you.
okay. Short and sweet. You waited a
Yeah,
long time. I appreciate you, Quan.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank
that
you. I'll be
time.
back for
I know
sure.
we secular, but you got the patience of a saint too. I'm gonna have to develop my list of secular saints. We
Yeah,
can.
I got you. Write me down for sure.
On a little tidbit.
I'm an Illinois resident as well. I'm just a
Oh, what
few.
part?
You ever heard of Rock Island, Illinois?
Oh, you got money.
Nah,
Oh,
I don't know. There's some nice
oh,
parts
thank you
of
for
it.
blessing us. See, I'm on the south side of Chicago. I'm in Bronzeville, so you know.
No, I'm
You
like
got,
two
you
hours away
got
from
money.
Chicago.
Okay, you living nice. I'm so happy you still down with the struggle, even though you made it out. You still with us. You still reaching back,
Of
giving
course, I
back to
got
us
to.
less fortunate Africans. Well, if you ever in the city, man, holler when Namdi come through.
Yeah, I got you. I got you for sure. I definitely will.
Yeah, you can come. I'll make sure you get out before sundown. You can't really hang in these streets like me. It's
Nah,
cool.
that's crazy.
I appreciate you, Quan.
Yeah, I appreciate you as well. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, bro. Peace. All right, that's it. That's the BroDiallo broadcast. We got through another one. Of course, go subscribe to the new channel, African World Order. What is going on? Oh, yeah, I was trying to put this money thing up. Oh, I got a few of these. Somebody asked, when are you going to do an atheist debate? Anybody that got smoke, bring it. I'm ready. All comers. I told y'all I am the master debater. So anybody want to come through and challenge the master debater, we can get it on. So, but I haven't had any challenges. In fact, I had this Florida minister, this brother in Florida, I'm not going to say his name, but he contacted me and said, I've seen some of your videos and some of my parishioners follow you. And I can't nobody go to Florida just now, but he was like, I'd like to bring you down to have a discussion with some church elders and maybe even speak to some of our congregants. I'm like, hell yeah, I'll come through. So he's like, all right. So then he went to like the board of deacons or something to get the money because they have a budget for speakers and stuff. And they were like, who? And they shut him down. He called me and profusely apologized. And he said he kind of got ahead of himself and he had no business asking me. So anyway, That's one. But I've never refused an invitation to engage somebody or even work with somebody based on their religious belief or delusions. I work with the religious, I'll debate them. So if you know anybody that want to holler, I've had like some Christians, Hebrew Israelites, Muslims. I even had a black person who went to Israel to live in Israel because they faith on the show. So I do open the platform up to people with religious belief to debate or discuss. Uh, what's the scoop on EYL? Well, EYL, I just had a talk with all the EYL, and there's one brother, I don't know, I was calling him. He was trying to resurrect EYL and brought us all together. But as far as we stand now, Jared is out. He said he ain't coming back. He's done for a myriad of reasons. You can maybe talk to him. And but Geechee did text me today and said, "What's up? What's up?" And I told him I'm available anytime after 5 today. So I was hoping to hear from Geechee, but he's reached out. But as far as Jared is completely out, Geechee and I are still talking, and y'all know when I know. But as far as now, there's no date or time where EYL exists or is slated to return. But I'll keep y'all posted. Like I said, I spoke to got a text from Geechee. I responded affirmatively, and so I'm waiting to hear back from him. Uh, why is Republican state so prominent in spreading Christianity? Because Republicanism is racist, fascist, repressive, patriarchal. There are many elements of Republicanism and white nationalism, patriotic nationalism, and fascism that is consistent with Christianity. So they're peas in a pod. They have a lot of overlap. And the Christian right and the Southern strategy, uh, former Democrats, now Republicans, they kind of forced an alliance. So the Republicans want capitalist, deregulated, full capitalist corporate control, maximize profits, suppress workers. And Christianity's understand, the Christian leadership understands if the Republican economic and policy platform comes through, will drive more of the population to desperation. And when people become desperate and run out of options, they run to the Lord, as someone said earlier. So Christian policies push people, women and men and children, to Christian, and not just to Christian faith, but to reactionary Christian faith. So they feed each other. Repressive, anti-human policies and the male chauvinist murder code of religion. They believe that that's what's going to happen. And how does Democrats play in that role as well? Well, the Democrats are status quo. The Democrats are liberal. So the Democrats believe that capitalism can be reformed for all people to participate. As Hillary Clinton stated, capitalism is good, but it needs checks and balances. So the Democrats were saying, well, under a Democratic administration, they were like, why can't everybody be a capitalist imperialist? Why can't we have transgender soldiers fighting at the forefront of the empire? We should allow for churches to go untaxed, but we should allow for abortion. So the Democrats, in their liberal stance, believe that everybody can be a full-fledged American integrated into the system. They don't want to repair the system. They want to open up access to participate in the system. But if you want, even if you get access to participate in the system, you have to be a neoliberal capitalist. So, and so, whereas the Republicans say, no, this is a white country, real America. So they play in it by giving ineffective opposition while trying to maintain the status quo. But the status quo is unstable and unsustainable. And as the status quo collapses, the Republican reactionary right and the Christian conservative evangelical apocalyptic religion saying, well, as more and more people get crushed by the system, we want to not only bring them into our fold, we want to have them attack other vulnerable people. I don't know if I answered the question, but that's clear. And finally, have there been any alternatives offered up practically? Yes, there have been practical alternatives offered up by the left. The problem is that when black religious people, where everybody says the black church is a strong institution, if you offer up alternatives that do not challenge the status quo will either tolerate or even prop up. So if I'm saying black people are hungry, black people are unhoused, black people want jobs and opportunities, and I, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, come and say, well, we're going to do this peacefully, and we're going to give charity and give food and housing assistance, but we're not going to challenge capitalism, we're not going to challenge imperialism, we're not even going to undermine global white hegemony. But the moment Dr. King goes from we're going to peacefully try to reform the system to say and create participation and opportunities within the system to saying, hey, maybe this socialism shit, maybe workers should control the means of production. Then it's time to clickety clack. It's the same thing with Malcolm. Malcolm X was running around saying the white man is the devil and the white devil this and the white devil this. And if the dog attacks you and fight back and defend yourself. Malcolm X went all over Jim Crow America saying this. And they were like, he's just a white religious leader, because Malcolm's ultimate message is the only person that can save Black America is Allah. And the only person that can lead us to Allah and convince Allah to come and intervene on our behalf is the most honorable Elijah Muhammad as his messenger. But then he was like, wait a minute. Allah and the prophet ain't going to save us. We have to look to revolutionary Pan-Africanists. I'm going to talk to Dr. King, who was developing a more materialist and dialectical analysis. I'm going to look at the decolonial struggle in Africa, which is leftist, communist, socialist, and secular, and black nationalist. He even went to Indonesia and all these other places, these revolutionary non-alignment struggles. And it's like, well, when he was talking all this religious fantasy stuff. So there have been practical alternatives offered. But those practical alternatives have been neglected by the larger community and under relentless attack by the state, because those alternatives don't just uplift Black people, they threaten the status quo. And the status quo, entrenched, powerful status quo, responds to all threats, real and imagined. I hope that answers your question. And I'll have one more question, because I can't ignore my moderators. Does Diallo believe, do I believe that there are any benefits to rituals and ritualistic behavior? Absolutely. I do not oppose rituals, but I think that there should be secular rituals. We should not be engaged in rituals to carry the favor of some supernatural unseen being. We should be engaged in rituals that honor our ancestors, that encourage and inspire our community, and recenter and focus us on the revolutionary work. I have no problem with pouring libations, especially when we're pouring libations to true ancestors, not supernatural beings. I have no problems with uniforms, with marchings, with symbols. Those things are very important to orienting and disciplining the mind. I believe that ideology is at the core, and rituals can not only help sustain ideology, they can help people to cultivate their ideology. So I do think that there should be rituals. We even have minor rituals, like when an elder comes to the house and the elder eats first and the elder sits at the house of the head of the table. There's all sorts of rituals that I fully support. And just being secular or rational does not mean that we do not understand the necessity and benefit of rituals. Okay, that's the last one, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Of course, go to AWO. We got a new channel that's got new content coming. There's a new show coming. And like I said, I was open and ready to do EYL, but the EYL was shut down. It was not my choice and not my call to end EYL. And like I said, I know for a fact Jared has informed me directly that he was out and has no intention of returning, but Geechee has reached out to me. So we will have a dialogue and we'll see. But as far as EYL, as it in its initial manifestation, is broken, it's busted, it's gone, as Del Joe would say. It's done, it's over. And I was just informed of that. I didn't hold that back. I was just informed of that the last time I was on the phone with Jared and Geechee. Geechee has said he's willing to continue dialogue to see what we can work out, but Jared said it's a no-go for him. He's out for good, in perpetuity. So that's where we are. Anyway, I'm still here for what it's worth. I do appreciate y'all, the love and support y'all have for EYL. And like I said, I did what I could to bring it back or to sustain it, but I failed. No, I'm only human. Pray on. Anyway, I'll see y'all next Monday for the BroDiallo broadcast. And next come back with part 2 of politics, with party politics radical self. I do so that I will start the conversation now. Don't subscribe to Capital Org.